Something else with the culture, everybody buys their food daily for the most part. Um, and so there's people selling different uh, food groups all the time going down the streets, and they all have their own calls. Um, there are people who sell fruit. They often have a large bike with like a trailer on the front of the bike, just loaded with fruit. And then they have a little speakerphone, and for some reason they all sound the exact same. Like every single person who sells fruit sounds the same, and they just kind of talk into their little speakerphone, yelling what kind of fruit they have, whether it's watermelon, mangoes, granadilla, grapes, bananas, anything that they have. They just kind of announce their wares through their speakerphone and ride their bike through the streets. And if you needed fruit that day, you'd go out and you'd stop the guy and you'd pay him for the fruit, and you'd take the fruit inside and you'd use that for that day's meals. Same with bread. They walk around with a big basket of bread and they yell out, usually without a microphone. They just yell what bread they were selling. They sold fresh bread early in the morning. You'd hear them at about 6 o'clock, sometimes earlier, that they're selling the fresh bread. You have the guy that goes down the street to sharpen all of your kitchen utensils, your knives, or cleavers, anything that you were using for your meats or vegetables that you needed sharpened, or even scissors. He had this little pan pipes, and he'd blow up the pan pipes and back down the pan pipes, kind of like a and you just knew that was the guy that would sharpen your tools. And that went for everything. It was everything from recycled metals to fixing your pots and pans to sewing up clothes. They had those guys that were always on the street, men and women, that would go around. They had their own calls, so you always knew what was being sold and you knew where to find them. It was kind of a cool experience. Something that you don't do, at least here, at least in English, not that you would want to do this anyway, but here in the United States, people often, while making fun of someone, or even just jokingly, just being jokingly making fun of like a sibling or a friend, like, oh man, you're so dumb. That's something that you don't do in Latin culture. You don't ever insult, even jokingly, someone's intelligence. It's much more serious and severe than we take it in the United States. But then again, flip-flopping, here, you would never joke about someone's complexion or the way they look. You could say, hey, skinny, or hey, fatty. Where flip-flops in Latin American culture, it's you get pegged with a nickname and you're that for life, and it doesn't rub anyone the wrong way. If you were being described as a missionary, people are like, oh, which one's Elder Hepworth? And I'm like, oh, the skinny one, and it works. No one bats an eyelid at it. Or if you were heavier, like, oh, the fat one. I'm like, oh yeah, that's him, and like no one bats an eyelid. So that's kind of a do and don't. You're okay to mention someone's appearance, but you're not okay to criticize their intelligence. Whereas it's kind of flip-flopped here in the United States.